mentorship, depending on what phase you are in your life, is to help to develop you as you go through that next season or that next phase of your life. So as you spoke, like when you're a child, you need mentorship, you need the close network and community of initiated men, spiritual men, financial men who can guide you through certain spaces. And then you transition to a different phase of your life where now as a man, 49, I'll go 50 this year. Gee, shameless plug, that sounds crazy. But it's necessary, even probably even more now, to get that mentorship, primarily because you can get caught up in the accolades of yourself. You can get caught up in the successes of you, and this mindset that you've arrived. You know what I mean? And as we know, um, you know, humble pie is always ready to be eaten. If you understand what I'm saying, like, you know what I mean?
Facts.
So, it's important to keep people in your ear. I tell Chris this all the time, like, the further you travel up this success path, right? The more you're gonna need people in your ear that can keep you humble, that can hold you accountable, that could allow you to see those blind spots that you don't necessarily see. Because the older you get, the more stubborn you get, the more successful you get, the more isolated you get in being able to evaluate your blind spots. So it's important for you to have people in your ear, in your scope, day in, day out, just to keep you on even keeled. So that's my long drawn out answer to say it's more vital now than it was before. Um, Chris, you function a lot in the boys to gentlemen space where you mentor a lot of young men as well. But of course, as a grown man, as a husband, as a father, I'm pretty sure you can speak to the necessity for having mentorship now. And, like I said, it's more vital now than it's ever been. And so yeah, I'll give it to you and let you expand a little bit on what your experience has been thus far.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think one of to go back to the points that you're talking about from the youth to an adult, I think sometimes you got to balance out need in regards to you as an individual versus responsibilities. And I
Yeah,
think that's why it becomes so much more important for mentorship because you trying to navigate school as a kid, you trying to navigate some childhood traumas. When you get to an adulthood, that's a whole different ball game. You got
for
different
sure.
responsibilities. You got other people who are depending on you. So I think a big part of that, even with from boys to gentlemen, the gentleman stands for lifetime student. We always got to be learning. So even in the space where, I was raised by my grandparents, so I'm always seeking that wisdom. I'm always seeking those elders, and even sometimes the wisdom comes from you. They make me relevant in a lot of places because they understand things that are going on, so I'm not out there sounding foolish or misunderstanding something. But that mentorship to go more directly, even from a personal standpoint, um, ain't a, they didn't really give you instructional guide for marriage. So now you
Yeah,
coming into a place where you trying to navigate the wild, wild west, and sometimes just hearing, because you hear the little perfect stuff like, oh, be a high value man, or you got to be this, or I'm a alpha. You hear all of these things. You got access to these podcasts, but sometimes it takes, and I'll speak specifically to something that Coach Crump said when I was listening to one of y'all videos. That man said, "I've been married how many years? How many years?
24. I mean,
24
20,
years.
19 years, 24 years together.
Okay. At the time I heard your video, you were like, however many teen years. You said I've been happy in them for two. It's been healthy and happy for two. That ain't a
Yeah.
ratio that we hear about. So you
facts.
looking at it
Mm,
like you setting false expectations, and we're not
mm,
prepared for the battles because then nobody tell it. They'll either give us some vague standpoint of it or give you this doom and gloom view. But the work necessary to develop a healthy marriage, what do you do when you got five kids and you grown, so to speak? How do you learn how to navigate that if you're not getting that mentorship? If somebody, you don't have an ET that's telling you, hey, I mop floors, I'm whipped.
mm,
You ain't know,
mm.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
at that
yeah.
standpoint, you don't always, you might be the big fish in your pool. You might be the people that others are looking to. So what do you do when other people are looking to you for advice and you don't hear the answer, or you don't hear the question that you don't have the answer for. That's where mentorship, especially as an adult, it takes
Mhm.
a level of humility to even be open to
Mm.
hearing. Because especially if you got status, if you got it all together, you have to have a certain level of openness to even hear from somebody,
For
to even
sure.
tell
Come
you.
on.
For
So
sure.
you
And
know
I
that.
and I hold on. Let's park right there because I was having and this is my personal, and then it's gonna sound not this is not a flex, but I got a driver, right? So in
I'm sorry,
Bermuda,
say
but
that one more
like
time. You
Hey,
say you got a driver,
yeah,
like
so
you mean a
so
golf driver, like a pitching wedge driver, or
no,
like a
no, he's
driver
talking about
driver?
driving Miss Daisy.
yeah,
Okay,
That
okay.
okay.
that
I just making sure I
yeah,
heard him correctly. All right, continue, bro. Continue.
you
My
so
bad.
petty and I love it.
I and I saw Chizi's face. I didn't want to finish my statement, but anyway, the point I'm making, right? So the point I'm making is I could be sitting on my high horse like in the back of a taxi, like, oh, let me just run some meetings, let me run some plays. But my driver, he said, Chris, I don't know why I'm led to tell you this, but he was like, just telling me how much he loves his wife, right? And this was like last week, Chizzy. And
Yeah,
when and I'm a reference this because of what you said, C dot, is that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Like I'm in that I can learn from anybody. Shout out to Pastor Michael McConnell told me on my first sermon 20 years ago. He said, Chris, God is in everything and is in everyone. And if you pay attention and you listen, you can learn, right? And so he was talking. He said, when people say they vows, they don't pay attention to their vows. He said one of the parts that stood out to me is that people don't like to talk about is when it says forsaking all others.
yeah, yeah,
And here is the part, right? So it's one level to forsake all others, your mom and your dad, your
yeah.
children, boom. But
Priority.
here's the other, but here's the other part, right? That you got when you say you made a vow. You made a vow to God, you made a vow to her, and you made a vow to the government and the state and the country which you live. I've forsaken even myself as far as my vow to love you unconditionally. So
Yeah,
what happens is we don't take the layers off of forsaking all others. It's like don't start compartmentalizing or categories. Well, which others you talking about? No. Forsaking all to have and to hold to death to us part and forsaking all others. And he was like, the reason why we got so much bliss, he said, I put it on my trust. I put it on my will. I put it on my deeds. I put it on all my bank accounts. And I was like, are you on man? She's stashing. He was like, if I'm concerned about how she's dealing with our resources, I should have never married her. And that's on me. That ain't on her.
for
Right.
sure.
And so you won't take away, right? You won't take away the nuggets if you're not even in the posture to receive wisdom from a driver, from what I'm saying? Like every day somebody can really give you something if you be present enough. Talk about and I'm gonna bring it to you this way. Chizzy, you really kicked in a different gear in your 40s. C dot, you kicked in
Yeah,
a different gear in your 30s. Talk about men who are deemed successful, why it's important for that man to take the initiative to go grab mentorship for it to work in your life. Talk about you two and practically how you decided to say, see that you both of you had a unique way that you reached out to me about this. Chizzy on the prayer line, see that on some just coach. Tell me what you need, but talk about why nobody told you, nobody made you, but you was like, I saw something, I see something both in you and in myself that I'm not sitting here waiting because I'm this age and I'm this stage that I'm going to grab that mentorship. Talk about why men need to do that.
I would say way too many men die in silence. They come in the
mm,
standpoint where because we got to keep up with this facade that we got to have it all together, it's taboo for us to ask for help. So why I think it's so important. Number one, it allows those around you to know when you're not okay. That fake it till you
mm,
make it mentality done put way too many of my people either to an early grave or just be in a bad place, mental health, physical health, uh, relational health all together. So when you talk about the importance of being willing to go out and seek it out, it changes it. It changes number one, you're far more willing to receive something that you look for than somebody just randomly coming in. Like if you feel like I am above reproach and I got it all together, it's not a lot of people that can come talk to you. Like one of my rules in my mentoring program, my first rule is I'm big on respect. But that's not just you respecting me. I need you to feel respected and valued by me. There's a level of reciprocity that has to come out in order for it to be effective. So when you talk about specifically mentorship, um, just the ability to come and humble yourself and say, like, hey, first of all, I'm going after another man without the need to say pause. Like you have that standpoint of that's not even what it means for me. It
Yeah.
means there's a level of value that this man can bring, and I gotta show myself available because a lot of times, especially in somebody of your ilk, y'all's ilk, y'all busy. You
Hmm.
can't come in there like, hey, I got a problem, come fix it. You got plenty of those people with that. Are you willing to humble yourself and say,
Thousands.
hey, it might be some problems that you got. I'm willing to match you first and say, how can I be of service to you? And that's not a trick thing. It's a real honest approach. Like, how can I be of service? What can I take off your plate? Then once you in a better place, hey, I need some help in this area. Are you open to it? I promise you, you more open to helping somebody who's done came in and helped you load up the truck. That's gonna help you clean out the building. That's gonna help you clean out your emails versus somebody who's gonna add just another task to you. So I think our willingness to seek out and that humility to come in to serve, it opens doors for reciprocity to happen.
Yeah. I think for me, I naturally am inclined to want to be a helper, and to be of service. Chris could speak this. He and I have been friends for a number of years at different levels, different opportunities, different stages of life. I think for me, I'm generally just somebody who wants to be of service and whatever that means, whether it's, from the most menial job to the most, to the most astute and the most, the highest paying job. I've always been in that space, but I recognize that some people don't have that. Men in particular struggle with that humility. And I think the first point of approach to it could be, like you said, just being grassroots and getting your hands dirty on the ground level. What that does is it opens up your heart and it opens up your mind to how appreciative people can be just of your time, and you just saying, this is nothing I have to do, but this is something I choose to do because I recognize it's hugely beneficial to somebody else. And I think for men in particular, because we're so used to being at the top of the mountain and looking down and try to delegate and try to push this and push that, it's hard for a lot of men to step back and say, look, man, at the end of the day, if when it comes to building my character and building who I am at this next phase of my life, I'm not going to always know everything about everything. And the best,
Mm,
and so you have to approach it like, I know nothing, and to know nothing means
mm,
you will actually receive and be open to criticism. You'll be open to trying something different. You'll be open to allowing somebody else to influence you in ways that you have never been influenced in a positive way. And that's where the mentorship comes in, because we all have our areas of expertise, and it's easy to occupy that space because it's comfortable. But when for
mm.
uncomfortable things where you have to step outside of your character and step outside
Come on.
of your knowledge base, that's where the real rubber meets the road. That's where you really have to say, all right, who can I call, and how can I attach myself to, that's necessary for me, um, to build myself up in the areas that I have deficits. You know what I mean? And a lot of men in particular struggle in that area because of the bravado, because of because of all of the things that prohibit us from being able to even see our blind spots. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Me in particular, like I could walk in any room and have a conversation or command the attention of anybody that I come in contact with. But at this phase of my life, where I'm having to even reshape my career, reshape
mm,
my profession, the only approach for me now is that I know nothing, and I just have to be a sponge to whomever can give me the
mm.
information that I need to get me where I need to go. And then the other part to that is, once you have that knowledge base, you have a responsibility to people
Come
under
on.
you to share
You
that with
better say
someone
it.
else. You know what I mean? Because information in isolation is useless. The whole point of it is to be able to disperse it and give it to other people so that they can learn from it, and it can splinter out and you build capacity, with the people around you, whether directly or indirectly, which is, the wonderful work that you're doing, Chris, in your program. But, it's a splintering of information. I need it, you need it. Who can I get it from? All right, I have it, now I can give it to somebody else. That's kind of how I look at it. You know what I mean?
But Chizzy, I think that's very practical, and I want to double down on that because you said a couple things that was very powerful. One, the inferiority complex of a man feeling like, man, not only am I trying to posture and perform because I'm actually
Mhm.
insecure that I'm good enough or I'm valuable enough or people can see me, or I'm just fighting for this level of external validation. But I remember, and I want you guys to speak to like the reason why we're highlighting men before we go into the boys and the youth, right? And Chris,
Yeah.
we definitely want to get some expertise and advice from you on this. But it's like I remember when I first joined Big Brothers Big Sisters in college, and I was still performing because that's what the hood taught me. And let me take the little kid, and we call him Jits from Florida, right? Let me take the Jit to Florida. Let me take him to the movies, take him to the basketball game. Let him get a hot dog, get some peanut M&Ms and a Sprite. Man, this kid, now this kid was 9 year old from the hood. This kid was losing his mind. Like I'm at a college basketball game. I get to shoot at halftime. I get to come to the game for free. I get to get a hot dog, boom, boom, boom. But one day, right? Because every weekend I was trying to take him somewhere. I'm a college student, so I was like, man, I got like $17. So I was like, yo,
You're
Kurt,
rich.
bro.
I'm going to say that's
I was
good.
like, I was like, Kurt, we can't go nowhere tonight, my boy. No movies, no nothing. And he said something that was so liberating that I needed a 9 year old, 10 year old boy that I just started mentoring to say to me. He was like, he looked back and he was sitting on the floor of my bedroom. He was like, "Man, we ain't gotta go nowhere. I just want to be with you."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that,
simplicity.
and listen, that was the first time that somebody said the value outside of my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. But she was like, we were just courting, so we wasn't there yet. But that was the first time that somebody was just like, what's valuable is not what you do, is not what you know, it's not how old you are. What's
Hmm.
Yeah,
valuable is your presence. Your
presence.
presence alone is the most valuable thing you have. How do we get men, as we show they need mentorship, but how do we get men to understand we need them to be mentors for the younger generation under them because their presence is so powerful? How do we do that,
Absolutely.
fellas?
Let me pose a question to you, y'all, both of
Hmm.
y'all, and
Hmm.
see if y'all have had this experience. Have you ever had an experience where somebody comes to you for help, and in the midst of giving them, you find out that you cooking for yourself? Like everything that they just it just started pulling stuff out of you that you wasn't even thinking. You realize like I don't know if this conversation was more for you or for me because you pulled that out of me. So I was wondering, like, as you talked about the importance of asking, do you think that's one of the components that's important because those people can draw stuff out of you that you don't even know is there?
I,
Chili speaks to
yeah,
this all the time.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was so that's why we do this because for me, I say it all the time. Like this is cathartic for me. It's less about the information that we present is more about what am I learning from everybody that comes on your platform, the conversations that we have. I was talking to Noel offline, and I was kind of feeling a little taken aback by my circumstance with the kids. And like every time I jump into this seat and we sit and have these conversations, I feel reinvigorated. I feel empowered. I feel like I could climb this roof and jump off the top. You know what I'm saying? Because it just empowers you in that space to be able
Mm.
to get the energy. And I don't even think people understand the importance of being around the energy of
Come
man
on.
and being in the space of doing stuff that's outside of the benefits for yourself. So to answer your question, yes, we have those experiences every time. I know I have those experiences every time, we do what we do. We attempt to do what we do. Um, but for man in particular, like again, set aside the bravado, set aside, you know, what you think you might not have when you enter into a space
Mm.
like you said, showing up, being available for your time. You'd be surprised how impactful that is because a lot of kids, as we know, just don't have access to grown men. to men, to have men that just genuinely care just because they care. And it's infectious because once you get in that space, Chris could tell you, both of you Chris's could tell you, once you get in that environment, like you need it. You thrive off of it. It becomes a part of who you are. And you can't, you walk away and it's impacted you forever. So for those men out there who are listening who are like, I'm not sure if I want to become a mentor. I have nothing really to offer anybody. You know, I'm from these streets, or I had a hard life, or I have it all together. Nah, bruh. Just your experience and just your time alone is impactful enough. It'll really make a shift. I know how many people have you talked to on this platform, other platforms that say that um, you know, they had a trajectory to do other things. Me in particular, I was scheduled to go work for MTV in an internship and live in New York. And then when I got back to Bermuda, I created Youth When You Move, this organization that was targeted with providing services for 18 to 35-year-olds, and it changed my whole trajectory. I've been doing this work ever since 2004. You know what I'm saying? So you never really know, you know, what you're going to be exposed to until you put yourself in that space, man. So you know, come on board for sure.
Yeah, I to answer your question, I'm a huge advocate of it, and yes, you are right. It's reciprocal. It is gasoline to the fire, and it's hope to the hopeless. Sometimes, you know, I talk about sometimes people don't realize a lot of times men be hopeless. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in some situations, it's just that love, that hug, that from a young person, you're like, man, you know what? Life ain't that bad. Everything's gonna be all right. I'm gonna be all right like that. There was a lot of time that happened to me, and I have, thank God, I have a reference of my father. I have a reference of mentors along the way, and then I just was the whole paradigm shift of 2011 and that whole situation. It blew my mind that it took that from me as a man, and I was quote unquote successful. I was quote unquote accomplished. I was quote unquote in a good space, but I wasn't in a good space. So it's like I was in a good space socially, but I wasn't in a good place spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, mentally. I wasn't, but nobody knew. And here's the thing, everybody in my environment, nobody could really address it. I needed somebody outside of my environment, to Chizzy's point, who've been in a different environment, to let me know like what it's like up there. And I was like, oh, that's possible. Because sometimes like what's hope is like, is it possible? Is it possible for me in my situation, in my circumstances? Like, is it possible? Like, just when you see you see the possibility that okay, I'm good. Like I'm good. I can see because part of being your presence from a young man, they can just see like, oh man, I can touch him. Like that's
Yeah,
a real bro. Like that's possible for me. You know what I'm saying? That's possible for me. So part of our presence is showing what's possible. Yeah, so I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that, see that.
that's beautiful. That's a different feeling. I was trying to make sure I wasn't alone in it because sometimes kids come, adults come, and you start to talking, and you like, wait a minute, this
Yeah.
very thing that I'm gonna tell you right now,
Yeah.
that's what had me up at 3 in the morning. So just that aspect of and as a hoop, I don't know if Chizzy hoop. I know Coach Crump, you talk about hooping. Sometimes
Dang,
it's the
dang, Shizzy.
Hold on, hold on,
Damn,
hold on, hold
dang,
on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on,
you
hold
hoop.
on, hold on, hold on.
I just hey,
Your
I don't
boy's
want to
giving me the
assume because you
feelings.
might be a footballer.
dang.
You know,
Your
Yeah.
boy's giving me the feelings hard, Chris.
I'm just saying.
Hold on, let me
You
add some
hoop?
clarity. You're saying he hoops. You was wondering if I hooped, is what you were
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay, 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 okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
See,
I
I
thought you were
Shizzy,
already
saying
I
if
know.
said,
Cub
You
Shizzy.
know,
hooped.
Coach
They
Crump
said
said
they
he
said
be
they
giving
know
the
about
buckets.
me, but they said they know about me, but they don't know nothing about Chizzy. I was like, hey,
He tough with
Yes,
okay. So
yo,
so y'all can relate to having
I
those
love it. I
other
love it. That's the
people
way I like it too. Sleeping
that
giant. Let's get it.
hey, those other people that pull a different gear out of you. Like for
Yeah,
me, when
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
on the court, you start talking
yeah.
mess to me, you get a different seat out. Like
Reggie, hey, if
normally I'm
you
chill,
Yeah.
we go out there, but as soon as you start you feel
Hold on.
right. You
hey,
feel
I'm
right.
laughing.
Hold on. We got time
Chris, see
out.
that? I'm
We got
laughing,
time out.
right?
See that.
Because
Yeah,
T
we
knows.
got.
Because Crump knows exactly what you're referring to when it comes to me on the basketball court and how manic
See
and crazy
that.
I can be. So
See that. We
let me
taking
give
the
you some
time out.
reference. Hey, hold on. My nickname Chizzy is the alter ego, right? So everybody that calls me that, if they know me by the mere fact that on the basketball court I turn into a maniac, it's a whole different person. And I ask for the Holy Spirit to come inside me and just continue to work with me in this area. He's laughing, right? Because he knows what's up. But to your point, that boy comes out on the court. So so all it's speaking about really and truly, just to bring it all back, is passion. And the passion. And so the same grit and grind you find on the basketball court is the same grit and grind you find in the space that I'm working in when it comes to young men, when it comes to the
Absolutely.
passion that you have for ensuring that men are supported, there's mentorship, and we do everything we can to provide a platform for men to be heard, seen, felt, and understood. You know what I mean? And we, like you said, we don't take this lightly. Like this is real work. It's similar to the to the comparison you was making. On the basketball court is about business, and we don't play with it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? At the end of the day, and that's how we look at this thing that we're endeavoring to do, similar to what you're doing with the young man. Like we don't joke around this because we're talking people's lives. We're talking about young men's lives, and a lot of them young men don't have access to men in their lives that can shift the trajectory and the choices that they make. So this is a serious thing. So I definitely take your point, man. But this basketball thing is serious. Just to bring it back, that's a serious
I can
conversation.
see
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it alone
Look,
because I got a couple stories, but I'm just, for the sake of focus on the conversation, you know what I'm saying? Like, but he
my
is
bad.
correct. Everything
Detour,
that
my
he
bad.
said,
Let's
he
back
is
on track.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's good. Now, but Chris, I want to give it back to you in the sense of, man, talk about, me, you and Chizzy have all developed programming. Talk about your
Mhm.
programming and how practically people can take some pieces away about people that don't have in-depth experience, reference, expertise, but they're just everyday people who hop in on Instagram, but they have a young man who is
Yeah.
desperately needing a mentor. They got a young boy who is desperately needing a mentor. What are some tactful principles, practices you can give to people?
Oh, for sure. So my program operates off of four pillars. We got emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, communication skills, and critical thinking. Those are the four key
Mhm.
places where I saw the biggest lack.
Yeah.
Breaking it down from an emotional intelligence standpoint, the only socially acceptable emotion for most men to show is anger. Like even when
Mhm.
you happy, you can get not you happy all the time. What's wrong with you? Like you can literally be ostracized for
Yeah.
being
Frowned
happy.
upon.
So,
Yeah.
learning how to navigate and just be able to stand on principle and say, you know what, I'm upset. I'm sad. I'm this. And instead of doing the thing that produces a punitive measure, specifically talking for young men, when you need to get out of the classroom, flip a desk, cut somebody out. You're gonna get what you're looking for, but you also gonna get that punitive measure. So for like some of the young men I work with, I started giving them cards that just said, "Hey, I need help. I don't know how to ask for it. Will you help me?" That
Yeah.
took
Wow.
all of the punitive measure out
Okay.
because they
I
didn't,
like that.
especially in that moment, they didn't know how to say all that. They mad. So when they
Yeah.
can come
Yeah.
back to it, but they also solicited the help of that educator because now that educator don't feel disrespected. You didn't just tear up the whole classroom. You didn't draw away from the instructional time, but you still advocated for yourself. So that's coming into those points of emotional intelligence. When I talk about communication, I always talk about the silent interpreter, and that comes back to the standpoint, kind of flowing in with our emotions. But when it comes down to who's speaking to you right now, like we could all be in a conversation, and you can say something that trigger me. I ain't even listening to you no more. You could be
Right.
like, "Hey, Chris, I like your shoes," and here come that silent interpreter talking about, "Hey, you know what he's trying to do, right? He waiting for you to get excited, and then he gonna say, 'What are those?' Like that's my issues talking. That's my
Right.
struggles talking. But if it's talking louder than you, guess what I'm gonna listen to? So getting to the point, like especially for educators, parents, mentors, I always try to encourage them. Just ask, "Hey, what did you hear me say?" And sometimes that
Mm,
repeating of it, it comes back like you get the
Right.
opportunity to say, "I didn't say that," and now you separate yourself from the actual issue, but you also open the door to talk about some of those traumas and struggles that you're dealing with. So when it comes
mm.
down to that, and I always ask people, I even do it with y'all. What's the most important part on the car? Three answers. Most important
Engine.
part on the car?
The engine.
No.
What's the most
Seatbelts.
popular car?
Most important part on the car?
On a car, it'll
Steering
start. You
wheel.
gotta start it.
No.
You gotta start it.
One more.
Steering
You
wheel.
gotta gas and
No.
brake,
What'd you say?
gas and brake.
The brakes. Nothing else matters if you can't stop. I ask people all the time, would you rather be in a car that can't go or a car that can't stop? Me personally, I'm not trying to be in no car that can't stop. So when
Facts.
you look at it, one of the things we talk about in critical thinking, just look at our own lives. How many times can this phrase be applicable?
Mhm.
Man, what was I thinking? And then the answer be, I wasn't thinking. That was the problem. I just ran
Yeah.
off of pure emotions of frustration. And so when we start to give young men these practical tools of saying, like, hey, sometimes 95% of your problem is just stopping. You want to do this right
Uh,
now. You charged up. You ready to go. Hit your
mm,
brakes real quick. And that's one of the struggles that you see because I'm so balled up. And referring back even when we talked about that emotional closet, my closet is overwhelmed with all the things I'm not allowed to talk about, all the emotions and
mm,
feelings I'm not allowed to deal with. And here come this unassuming teacher opening that door.
Yeah.
Can
mm,
I hit my brakes? Can I
Yeah.
stop? Can I recognize before I respond and misunderstand you? Can I sit back and just hold myself? If I gotta physically like grab, I had one kid, he's so rough, like literally, I told him you gotta grab your elbows, bro. When you really get to that point, you gotta grab your elbow because he put hands on people, and I think anybody that's worked with at-risk kids,
Yeah.
you talked about the baby's kids, Coach Crump. Some of these kids they strike
bruh,
first, and
Bruh.
bruh,
they
doing the
can
That's all they
be
most.
knew.
they can
Cortisol
Hey,
be
levels are
di-
through the roof.
look.
hey, diagnose with doing the most. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
100%. Yeah. So I think from a practical standpoint, whether you're a mentor or a parent or somebody that's seeking to make that impact, one of the most powerful things that you can do is shift your mindset into saying, um, I am more focused on understanding than I am demanding to be understood. Because that's one
Yeah.
thing I see in the educational space. They're demanding to be understood. You gonna do what I say because I'm the head honcho. I'm this, and a lot of times we don't sit back, especially working with kids. If you talk to a lot of them, one of the number one obstacles is not being heard. They'll tell you that ain't even what I said. They not even listening. They don't care. And I know it's
Right.
cliche,
Mm,
but it's so true. I know y'all have all heard it. Kids
Oh, for
don't
sure.
care what you know until they know that you care.
What do you
And
care?
when you're
Yeah.
able to communicate that, one of the easiest ways to communicate you care is to listen. When you've
Yeah.
never
wow.
been listened to and nobody hears, like I had and y'all, I'd love to get y'all feedback on this because y'all work with kids and especially in the educational space, coach. For black men in particular, a lot of times they want to make us the enforcer. When it comes to a kid, they want us to come in and punk the kid, get the snapping fingers and tell them what they're gonna do to get them to immediately shift their behavior. And sometimes they're offended when we ask further questions. So I've had kids that come in and they will ask, they're upset, frustrated. And the first thing I tell them is like, "Hey, have you ate today?" Okay,
Mm,
interruption. Hey, I see that they got a Dragon Ball Z shirt on. Okay, before we finish our conversation, Goku or Vegeta?
Yeah.
Oh
mm,
man, well, Vegeta is an underrated. Like they'll start talking. Meanwhile, the educators over there looking like I didn't ask you about anime. This ain't food club. But what I'm trying to model for them is that's part of the
mm.
obstacle.
Come
If you
on,
wouldn't deal with the
come
initial
on.
issue, and ask like allowing that kid to see that you matter opens the door for so many other things. Yes, I can talk to them about some of their behaviors. Yes, I can talk to them about some of their decisions. You know why? Because I fed them, not just physically but emotionally and mentally as well. I gave them the opportunity to unpack some stuff that wasn't so focused on their behavior. Hey, breathe a little bit.
Okay.
Sometimes
Mm,
even when
Yeah.
you got to do surgery, your surgery could be needed right now. You can't even do the surgery till you lose a little weight.
Yeah.
mm.
You got to get
I
prepped
love it.
for it.
So
And
let's get final thoughts here. Chizzy, what's your final thoughts on what we've been talking about as it relates to mentorship?
um, well, especially as it relates to young people, because obviously young people turn into ill people that turn into stubborn people. So in the work that you're doing, Chris, as some of the work we've done, and work I continue to do, work you continue to do, Crump, it's important for early intervention, especially as it relates to emotional intelligence for young men, and even more pressing for black men, young black males in particular, because there are so many external things that they're being told that they're being bombarded with. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. That says that your manliness is attached to your emotional reactions and not understanding how you're feeling and what you're experiencing may not necessarily be the best way to actually get your needs met, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I think it's important for us as a culture and the work that we're doing to continue to drive home to young men in particular that, it's okay to have feelings, it's okay to have emotions. And this is what understanding your emotions does and how it translates into good decision making
Mm,
because when it comes to every other area of your life, whether it's financially, whether it's spiritually, whether it's relationally, emotionally, if you have zero control over your emotions, then you make choices based on getting that emotion met. And then that may not necessarily be a logical approach and a more long term approach to getting the results that you're looking for, which is why we have gang culture. And of course, we can have a whole podcast around antisocial behavior and why this is so attractive for young men, given the information that they're being given about
mm,
manliness and bravado. But I don't, but in short, I think it's important for even grown men because it's never too
mm,
late. Because younger men turn into grown men, like I said, and it's harder it's harder to pull, it's harder to shift the mindset the older you get. You know what I mean? So it's important that people understand that it's not too late, but it really requires a lot of work and humility to be able to evaluate what you need emotionally so that the people, your loved ones around you, can benefit from the work that you've done. So intervention to me, I've always been in the mind space about intervention, and prevention, of course, prevention first, intervention, and then suppression somewhat along the trajectory. But the prevention and the intervention is critical to, getting young people and men in particular to identify and be able to navigate the emotional sort of pitfalls that come with being a man, really and truly.
yeah. Man, I love it, man. I want to just validate both of you, but C dot, man, them gems you gave us about the practical steps with the car. Listen, I
On the
don't know how to
brakes,
ask
man,
for
that's
help,
good.
but and the brakes, pump the brakes, man, and just so many other gems you dropped today just to give people those practical tips, man. I can't wait to chop that up, man. We can make a PDF off that, man. You got to just thanks for sharing your pillars.
Thanks.
Man, and thank you for just your presence, man. But tell us, how can people learn more about just your resources for mentorship, and then also kind of what's your closing statement you want to share with the people?
Oh, for sure. So really, got some more videos coming out on YouTube. Um, Still, we had some hangups with the website. Not trying to rush it out there. So the website will be out soon. But social media, a lot of conversations are huge
Mm,
on just establishing this. Just from takeaways, I want to speak specifically to single moms for a second because that
Mm,
is an area where there's a lot of stigma, but there's
mhm,
also a lot of unintentional damage done where that mentality of I got to do it all myself can be lost, where sometimes a woman is just saying I don't want nobody else to hurt my baby, I don't want anybody
mhm.
else to come in and be that damaging abandonment figure,
or
and I
even
think
type her.
sometimes
You
come on.
know what I mean?
So,
Yeah, so
when you are in that position, I think that I want to challenge men in the community to be mindful of that. And I
Mm,
want to challenge some of the single moms to seek support
mhm,
when it comes down to the young men, and not just as an enforcer, not somebody to come and toughen them up, not somebody to come and just hoop with them, talk crazy, teach them all the stuff that you don't want them to do, but really an intentional approach. Find out what mentoring programs that you have in your city, in your space. Find out what resources, find out what virtual options that you have as far as getting in and some life coaching, but really take that intentional step on how you can support your sons, because one of the struggles that we're dealing with is that separation. um, part of their need is for you to model being a healthy mother. And I don't mean
Mm,
by your intention, I mean by your execution, not by buying things or overcompensating, but really come to the standpoint how many moms really are letting their sons know, like, hey, I'm really not okay, but mama's still
mm,
present. Instead of making them
mm,
their punching bag, and after they're in their emotional punching bag, they go buy you the PS5 or the Jordans that you want to try to make you feel better about what happened. But when it
Yeah.
really comes down to it, I want to see more of us come from that community support. I got a single mothers conference that I'm going to be facilitating on next Friday. And these
mm.
conversations that these moms have, like, yeah. And I utilize my book for, kind of a platform as an avatar for some of those. But I want more,
What's the
and I
name? What's
think
the name of your book?
from Boys and Gentlemen,
What's
Okay,
the
awesome.
gem?
for sure. And so I utilize the conversational piece in the book in order for women to have the opportunity to say things that might be taboo. How many
Mm,
moms could really come out and say, hey, there was a part of me that resented my son and even got to the point of hatred for my son because when I saw him, all I could see is the man that abused me. You can't say
Mm,
that out loud without being dogged. But how
yeah.
many
mm,
women are dealing with that situation? So how many women are not getting the help, the awareness, and the encouragement necessary to say, "Hey, let's hit the brakes on that trauma. I don't. I may have done that, but how do I stop that? How do I reverse it back to the standpoint where now I'm not continuing on this cycle of trauma?" So I want to encourage women with sons, daughters as well, not leaving them out of the picture, but specifically for their sons. You
yeah.
represent so much for them. And the
Mm,
last thing that you want, I ask you to challenge yourself. Do you want your son walking away with you being the example of a woman that he's supposed to go after? And if you don't like the
mm,
answer to that, let's find an adjustment to make sure that you're modeling what you would want for your son when it comes down to a spouse or even just somebody in the community. Would you
Mm.
want your son to gravitate to women like you? If you don't like that answer,
Mm.
let's make the adjustments.
I love
I,
it,
I,
man.
I,
Go ahead, Chip.
I'm biting my tongue on this topic. Crumb, we can have a whole 2 hour, 3 hour, 6 hour pod just centered around parenting, motherhood, fatherhood. But I just want to say, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, Chris, ladies, we are not the enemy. We are your greatest asset, just like how we see you to be our greatest asset. So I want to
Absolutely.
kind of start to dispel and debunk this him versus her mentality that's manifest in our community that brings separation for our kids and for our community because you know anybody with half a brain knows that you know it takes a man and a woman to make a child. So that's I'm just gonna leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? And you know, making a kid is just the beginning part of it, but it's development. It's all of these other
Mm,
components. And I know sometimes the separation, divorce, anger, pain, trauma um, prohibits us from seeing past our initial experiences with that. But
mm.
I just want to encourage women and
Mm,
men
come
to
on.
try to have a conversation with each other and not at each other. You know what I'm saying? It's a
Absolutely.
big difference. So that's my
Well,
takeaway.
and listen, this is the one I was sitting back like a fat cat. I know I had experts in the space to talk about this. You guys are fully embodying this. I love what I respect about you both is you not only do this, you go through this and you
Sure.
show that with people and share that with people, man. And that's what makes this transparent. That's what makes this accessible. That's what makes this safe because people can see real men going through this thing in real time. Man, thank you. On behalf of the Boy Man King podcast, man, please like, share, and subscribe to our platform on YouTube, man, and make sure you let
You check out
somebody
Chris's
know that we got the
episode,
gist.
man.
Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
say
Go
one
ahead,
more
see that.
thing? Happy
Yeah.
birthday to my queen. Thank you for allowing me to do it. She'll be here in a minute, but she don't like attention, but that's too bad. Happy
Come
birthday.
on.
Shout out to the queen. Shout out to the
Yeah,
queen.
yeah.
Queens love.
Shout,
Queens create the
yeah.
kingdom.
Yeah, you already know, man. Happy birthday to you. But
Happy
man,
birthday.
follow us,
Sure.
Boy Man King Talk. Follow us. You also go to our website, boymankingpodcast.com. Man, we're just grateful and thankful. Appreciate you guys tapping in. And as we say on the Boy
The
Man King
journey.
Pod, man, the journey
That's it. The
continues.
journey
Y'all be
continues.
blessed.
Y'all
We
take
out.
care.
Peace.